turned the corner of an old brick building, my gaze caught a narrow door, half hidden in the shadows of an alley. I had never noticed it before. It wasn't large or grand, but there was something about it, something that called to me. I hesitated for only a moment before my feet began to move on their own. My hand brushed against the cool metal of the door handle, and a rush of curiosity surged through me. What was this place? Why had I never seen it before? The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit staircase that seemed to descend deep underground. There were no signs, no indications of where it led, but something inside me whispered to take the first step. So I did. Each step echoed softly in the enclosed space, the sound of my heels the only thing breaking the silence. As I descended, the air grew warmer, more inviting, almost as if it was welcoming me into another world, and perhaps it was. At the bottom of the stairs, I was greeted by a long corridor lined with dark, plush velvet curtains. The faint sound of music drifted through the air, soft, seductive, luring me in further. I couldn't resist. My curiosity had already taken over, and with every step I took, the world outside seemed to fade away. Pushing past the curtains, I stepped into what felt like another dimension. The space was large, yet intimate. Candlelight flickered in golden sconces on the walls, casting a soft glow over everything. The scent of something sweet and musky lingered in the air, teasing my senses. It was a place unlike anything I had ever seen, a world where nothing seemed off limits, where desire and indulgence ruled above all else. I could feel eyes on me as I moved further into the room. Bodies lounged on velvet couches, some entwined in whispered conversations, others lost in the intensity of stolen touches. There was an unspoken understanding in the air, a silent agreement that here, everything was permissible. That's when I saw him. He was sitting across the room, leaning back in a dark leather chair, his posture relaxed yet commanding. His eyes met mine, sharp, intense, like he had been waiting for me all along. A shiver ran down my spine, the kind that only comes when you know something is about to change. He stood up slowly, his gaze never leaving mine, and I couldn't look away. There was a magnetic pull between us, something deep and primal. Without saying a word, he began to walk toward me, his steps deliberate, confident. The crowd around us seemed to blur, and all I could see was him. When he reached me, he didn't speak. Instead, his hand reached for mine, his fingers brushing lightly against my skin. I felt the heat of his touch sear through me, and my breath caught in my throat. There was something about him, something dangerous, something irresistible. I didn't know who he was, but it didn't matter. In this place, names and identities were irrelevant. All that mattered was the connection we shared in that moment. Without a word, he led me deeper into the space, past the flickering candles and soft whispers. We moved through the hidden corners of this secret world, into a private alcove where the flicker of candlelight danced on the walls. It was quiet here, intimate, just him and me. He turned to face me, and for a moment, I hesitated. But the way he looked at me, with a hunger that mirrored my own, banished any doubt. His hand came up, cupping my cheek gently, and I leaned into his touch, my eyes fluttering closed. His fingers traced the line of my jaw, and a soft sigh escaped my lips. Every nerve in my body was suddenly alive, buzzing with anticipation. He leaned in, his breath warm against my ear. "I've I've been waiting for you," he whispered, his voice low and rough, sending shivers down my spine. His words held a weight I couldn't quite place, but they ignited something deep within me, a desire that I hadn't even realized was there. His lips grazed my neck, and I gasped, my body instinctively arching toward him. His touch was firm but gentle, his hands exploring, claiming, as if he knew exactly what I needed before I even realized it myself. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness, just an unspoken understanding between us, as though our bodies had known each other for a lifetime. He pulled me closer, his hands sliding down my back, pressing me against him. The heat of his body seeped into mine, and I could feel the tension building between us, thick and electric. His lips found mine, and the moment they did, everything else faded away. The kiss was slow at first, deliberate, like we were testing the waters, but it quickly deepened, becoming more urgent, more demanding. I could taste the hunger in him, the same hunger that was coursing through my veins. His hands roamed over my body, each touch sending sparks of pleasure through me. I moaned softly against his lips, and he responded by pulling me even closer, his grip tightening on my waist. We moved together, our bodies finding a rhythm that felt both familiar and new. His hands explored every inch of me, and I reveled in the way he touched me, possessive yet tender. I could feel the raw intensity in his movements, the way his body pressed against mine, and it only made me want him more. He broke the kiss, his lips trailing down my neck, leaving a trail of fire in their wake. I gasped, my hands tangling in his hair as he kissed lower, his teeth grazing the sensitive skin of my collarbone. My body was on fire, every touch sending waves of pleasure crashing through me. "Tell me what you want," he murmured against my skin, his voice rough with desire. I could barely form the words. "I want you," I breathed, my voice trembling with need. "I want you now." That was all he needed to hear. In one swift motion, he lifted me, pressing me against the cool stone wall of the alcove. My legs wrapped around his waist, and I could feel the heat of him through the fabric of our clothes, the anticipation building to an unbearable level. His hands slid beneath my dress, his fingers brushing against my thighs, and I shivered at the sensation. He moved with a slow, deliberate rhythm, teasing me, driving me to the edge with every touch. My breath came in ragged gasps as he pushed me further and further until I was trembling in his arms, teetering on the brink of release. And then, with a final deep thrust, I shattered, the pleasure overwhelming as it ripped through me. I cried out, my body arching against his, my fingers digging into his shoulders as I rode the wave of ecstasy. He followed me over the edge moments later, his body shuddering against mine as he buried his face in my neck, his breath hot and uneven. For a long moment, we stayed like that, our bodies tangled together, our breaths mingling in the quiet aftermath. Slowly, he lowered me to the ground, his hands still holding me close as we caught our breath. I felt his heart pounding against mine, and for the first time that night, I wondered who he was, but I didn't ask. It didn't matter. As I straightened my dress and prepared to leave, he took my hand, his fingers tracing circles on my palm. "You'll come back," he said, his voice soft but certain. I met his gaze, feeling the weight of his words. "Maybe," I replied, a smile playing on my lips. But we both knew I would. Have you ever stepped into a world where the rules no longer applied, where desire and curiosity led the way? Share your thoughts, and let's explore the unknown together.